Yeah,
So has everyone got refreshments?
Yes, Matthew was like, I'm going to go first down the lane.
Oh, well, let me get
I was like, really? He was like, yeah.
Oh,
I was
and
like, okay.
then a blur and they were gone?
Well, yeah, Colonel was not impressed. Yeah.
Jumping line.
And so, and he went in front of Sophia. I think I took a film of it because literally Matthew was leading the herd down the lane. He's like, follow me.
Spirit would probably sit and say, you're so obnoxious.
Spirit was like, I'm first in and I don't have a muzzle, I can eat my food. Yeah, it's really bad, I don't have no helmets though. I won't be posting in public because I'll get told off.
Yes, everybody gets the
Yeah.
Right, we'll start then, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and
Yeah,
thank you for coming out, everybody. I'm Jo Shaw, and I, at present, work with horses and I do energy therapy. I'll explain obviously throughout what that really means. You may have heard the word like healer, but I don't really like to call myself a healer because I'm just a facilitator. I'm more of an energy manipulator of the horses. But I'll tell you how I got here. I mean, I've always loved horses, born to ride, and started riding when I was 6. And I was really very interested from an early age about the extrasensory perception that we have with horses. And remember reading a book about it, and just knew that there was this invisible sort of communication and connection that we have. It's not seen. And then when I was about 18, I did my AI, so it's all British Horse Society, you know, like this, which I feel, looking back on it, probably cramps that sort of communication and connection that I felt. Because I know when I worked, because then I went on to work with polo ponies, and it's a more freer ride, and you're communicating more. And also, they go out in the fields for winter, and then your job is you have 4 horses that you have to get polo fit, and what you do is ride one and you lead 3. And looking back, I think, was I really, really crazy? But you know, obviously you have that invisible connection and communication, because there's no way that you can you're just using your weight or your voice to control the horses. It's so much more than that. And there was one particular horse that I would ride, and the owner, he would always bolt with him on the polo pitch, and I just knew it was almost like I'd think walk and he'd walk, you know, so I could see it with him very much. And then I came out of horses. I ran a riding school in Battersea, and that didn't go well, I have to say, that did not go well. And I went into nursing and sort of lost my connection with horses for a while. So I had the odd potter on a horse. And then you know, in nursing and also in school, you don't really hear too much about the energy that goes on within a cell. You learn all about the matter and the particles, but you don't really hear about the energy, apart from the fact that we know the heart beats because of the electrical connection. And then I went on to work with drug users, and I did get trained in ear acupuncture, which is obviously working with the energy and the meridians in the ears, and I could see that it was reasonably effective, but I was quite sceptical about it. I also did my first Reiki 1 and didn't resonate with that either, and I thought, well, I don't know about all this, so I didn't practice it, and then I worked in bereavement for 10 years and ended up managing the mortuary, so there was no energy obviously there. It's all very different, but I was very aware of how stress and working in stressful environments impacts on your health. And it was when later on in life I found out why that was. So anyway, I ended up having to medically retire because I had a lot of injuries. I've been to many pain clinics. It didn't help falling off horses throughout my life. And as I say, medically retired in 2016. I was on a whole raft of prescription drugs. Been to so many pain clinics, and there was really nothing more the medical establishment could do with me. So I was at home in a lot of pain for about a year, and then I started reading about quantum physics, because I remembered having a conversation about string theory, and I just wanted to, I don't know, something piqued my interest, so I started reading about it and found out that we were vortexes of energy at the cellular level, at the quantum level. And then I realised that, well, if we've got that energy within ourselves, then surely I can start moving that energy. So I set out to find the secrets of the universe, and as Nikola Tesla, has any of you come across Nikola Tesla, the most fabulous scientist, says look at energy, frequency and vibration. So I started moving the energy through my body, I could come off all my tablets, it took me about a year, and then I got a diploma in bioenergy healing and started practicing on anybody that moved and any animal that moved either. And it didn't resonate so much practicing on humans. I was very drawn to the horses, so I'd go down my friend's yard and start practicing on the horses. And it was really just feeling their energy field. So I would go along, probably be about that far away from their body, just to see if I could feel any difference in my hand. And gradually I learned I could feel, oh, that feels a bit warmer, so that might be a problem area. But remember, it was all very new to me and I wasn't sure. And of course, you don't know what effect you're having on the horse until you have to wait to see what the owners say, if they see any difference. I mean, this is right at the beginning of my journey. But gradually, my friends started seeing a change in the horses, and there was one particular horse called Patch. He'd worked for riding for the disabled, and he was in quite a pickle, and but she noticed that he was becoming, the ease of his movement was becoming much better. He seemed to be in less pain, and I practiced, and then I started seeing the results for myself. And I didn't want to just, so if you asked me to come and see your horse, I didn't want to just come to you, see your horse, and then you have to rely on me. I wanted to be able to teach other people how to feel the energy as well, so you could do it with your horses. And I also found out what affects the energy within the cell. Now, within your body and within a horse's body, there should be 1.4 volts in each cell. Now, if there isn't, then the proteins can't work as well as they can in the cell, and it's all, I could get into a lot of depth about it. It's the mitochondria that move the energy as well. They're the battery of the cell. But what happens is there's three things that affect the energy within a cell. The first is physical trauma. So if you knocked your leg, that would impact on the cells, and the energy wouldn't be able to move as well. The second one is toxins. So this is what you eat, what you drink, and this is also what your horses eat and drink. So that will affect the energy health of the cell. And the third one is behaviour, as in perception, as in stress. So when you're stressed, or when your horse is in stress, you have a lot of adrenaline and cortisol and all those chemicals, and they stop the immunoglobulin A, which you need for your immune system. So I looked at that as well, and obviously if you imagine yourself when you're holding tension, you hold it in your body, don't you? And you're not aware of it until you start getting uncomfortable or you start getting pain. And that's why yoga, breathing exercises, all those sort of things are very good for us to relax us, and it allows the energy to move through. And obviously for the horses as well. With animals, as you know, they keep going until they can't. And all horses hold stress within their body. And we can add to their stress without realising. You've got the environmental stress, haven't you? When you think of how wild horses live and how they live now, and how a lot of them can be stabled, and then got to wait for it not to be soggy in the fields for them to get out, and obviously for their energy to be moving through their body, they need to be out. It's because we hold it in our muscles. It's the same for us. Think about those days, maybe, I don't know if you ever get the day, or when you're younger, on a Sunday when you don't do much, the less you do, the less you want to do. It's because your energy isn't moving through your body. and it's the same for the horses. So I do teach about the energy health of the cells for you as riders, and also for your horses as well, because it's very, very important. I just didn't want to be going in there and just helping. I like to empower people as well. So if you have any questions as we go through, just ask, won't you? So with regards to the horses, I started going down to Tara Osborne's and doing some training with riders, and also people who brought their horses along. I would feel the energy fields and tell the riders where the problem was. And that's when I met Leslie with Sid. I don't know if you've heard Sid's story, but it was quite useful actually, because Leslie had been riding Sid in the morning and couldn't get him to canter, and I'd just seen that, and then I happened to see him in the afternoon, which was quite good because I had time, so I was feeling all around his energy fields. And what happens is, have you heard of entrainment in physics? So it's when a lower frequency energy, when it meets a higher frequency, it rises up to meet it, and that's called entrainment. So what's happening when I'm putting my hands near the horse, if there's a lower frequency in the horse's body, in the cells, it will start rising up, and I can feel the tingling in my hands, and they also get tingling. I know they get tingling because if I was here with you, doing it with you on your body, you will often feel tingling. So I know from humans they often feel tingling. They can feel like a pushing or a pulling. It feels like the cells are expanding. Some people find it very relaxing. Sometimes it's a little bit achy. So the horses haven't told me they felt tingling, but we'll talk about some of the signs that energy is moving through their body in a moment. So I felt all around in Sid's body, my hands were just tingling so much, which I knew that meant that he had a lot of condensed, constricted cellular energy there. And now that I'd like you to tell me this actually. Have any of you come across the Masterson technique? Okay, so think about how your horse shows signs of relaxation or relaxing. Tell me some signs. Stretching, yeah. Yawning, yeah.
Put the head down.
Yeah, lowering their heads, stretching out. Any more?
Mouthing. Bit of mouthing.
Yeah, mouthing, chewing, licking. Sometimes grinding their teeth, trembling, quivering of the lips, itching their body, altered breathing, yeah. So, having a big sigh, dropping their head and neck.
Mum does this pretty much all the time anyway.
They will do, because
And then
that's
he
how
falls
they.
asleep.
Yeah, well that's it. It's how they naturally relax. Of course, they do this all the time.
Mine's pretty chilled though.
Yeah, but what happens is when I'm working with them, this is the signs we'll see, and it's quite significant. So your horses will naturally do this, but I just encourage them to do it more. And it's quite interesting because quite a lot of horses hold a lot in. Shaking in the body, snorting, sneezing, blowing out, yawning, rolling back the second eye, releasing from the sheath, and moving wind motions. So when I go and see a horse, these are the signs I look for. But anyway, with Sid, he wasn't relaxing at all. The most I saw was a rippling of the skin, because as the energy is moving through the cells, sometimes you see it rippling through, which is quite amazing. We'd seen a ripple of the skin. Now, after about 45 minutes, I thought, what am I going to do? Now, I've been practicing communicating from my heart-to-heart communication. Have you come across that before? Yeah. Because our heart is a frequency and an energy, and obviously the horses isn't. It's a way you can communicate. It's a way of telepathically communicating with them. I've been practicing with my dogs. Thought I was absolute rubbish, right? And I've not told anyone about it, but I just wanted to be able to do it. And I said to Leslie, I'm going to try and communicate with him. I thought this isn't going to work. Anyway, he was stood there in the middle of the stable, and how you can do it is, you know, you can put to feel that closer connection, to put one hand on their withers and one just on their shoulders. So I thought I'll just do that, and I did that, and then he went like that. So I went like that. He went like that. I went like that. And then it stopped. And then I just imagined my heart talking to him, to his heart, and connecting, saying, relax and trust. That's all I imagined my heart saying, relax and trust. And as I did that, he turned his head round, put it on my knee, turned his head back, and then it was like somebody had got him by a piece of rope. He pulled his head right up, so naturally, right up high, then pulled it right tight into his chest, then right out, dropped it. And as he dropped it, me and Leslie felt all this energy come out, and it was so immense. Leslie started crying, I started crying. It was a huge wave of release, and then Sid yawned for about half an hour continually afterwards, and it'd been able to release. And I actually thought then that was a bit of a fluke. I didn't dare try communicating again, because I thought, what if it doesn't work? You know, I was just so excited about it, and I thought, was it Leslie's energy as well? Which it may have been. So Leslie rested him for a couple of days, because it is important to rest them. When horses have held so much in for a long time, which he obviously had, they can be very, very tired afterwards. So she rested him a couple of days, and then when she rode him again, he's like Pegasus, flying around, no problems to the canter, because he'd been holding his body tight. And we looked at it, and Leslie said it was probably because he'd come from Iceland, he'd had a very long, arduous journey over, so you can imagine I don't know whether he came from by plane or road, but you know, it's long, and of course then they hold themselves tighter, don't they, you know, as we do. And it held all this tension. He's a very stoical little horse, and the Icelandics are. And it was just holding it all in, and then he just released it all, and then of course he could move with much more ease and grace, you see, much more comfortable. And anyway, so I carried on doing the healing that I'd been doing with other horses, and then I didn't dare try this communication. Then I came across Nemo. Do any of you know Nemo? Yes? And he's on the video actually. He's an older horse in his 20s. He'd seen his brother die, because he used to be in
He was a driving horse.
and his brother had had a heart attack. And anyway, I went to see him, and I went up to him. So again, put my hands out just by the shoulders, because it's a good place to start. It's not too invasive. And I thought, well, I can't feel anything, and this is the first. I literally, my hands, you know, there was no tingling. I thought, well, I knew he must have so much tension because of, you know, in his 20s, he must have had a lot of trauma and stuff. And I said to his owner, I said, well, this is weird. I can't feel anything, and this is the first. And anyway, as I was talking, he went to the back of the stable, and he just put his head down. He looked at me, and he looked so dejected and upset. And I said, oh, I've upset him. She says, I've never seen him like this. So I said, I'm going to go and try and talk to him. So I went and did the same thing again. I went and stood by him, just imagined my heart talking to his, saying, I'm here to help, I'm here to do some healing with you. You know, I kept it very, very simple. And as soon as I'd done that, it was literally ping! It's like the Christmas lights had come on. I could suddenly feel all of his energy fields. And it's like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, it's been such a learning curve. I mean, that was 2 years ago. So after Nemo, I thought, right, I'm going to communicate with every horse now. Before I start, I'll come into their space, and then I'll just open up my heart and say to them why I'm there. And you know, I know when I've communicated, because I can sense, and I can also see them. It's like their little ears are antennas, and you can see when they're picking up my frequency. Now it's interesting, because some things will block it. Sometimes if they're Leslie did with Buster, because loved her so much, all the love, you know, just mummy, and it's like it wasn't even taking any notice of me. So we found if Leslie went away, then I could get more of a response from him as well. And then you do find that with owners sometimes. Sometimes it's better that they go away. It's not always the case, but because each horse, as we know, is so individual, aren't they? You know. And I've found over the years as well that some horses are quite shut down. You find especially some of the riding school horses, they're very shut down, and they don't want to open up. I went to see one of my friend's horses recently, and she did tell me that she'd been through a lot with this pony. She'd done an awful lot. She was a competition horse, and when I first went to her, once again I couldn't feel much at all, but I knew what was happening this time. I knew why, and I could just feel a little bit around her hind gut, and then after about half an hour she started opening to me, and once again it was like the lights had come and I could feel everything and I could work with her, and she just opened up completely, and then I could work and she could relax. So it, you know, I'm aware of it now, and it doesn't bother me. I understand what's happening. I came across another horse as well, one that I didn't think there'd be any problem with. She'd just been brought into the yard, owned by a 15-year-old lass, and initially when I assessed her, I could feel it around her withers, and so and everywhere else wasn't too bad actually, and I said it's around the withers, and they said that makes sense because she does have sore withers from her previous owner when the saddle didn't fit, and everything was fine. But then this horse became lame a few weeks later, and they asked me to see her. So I went to see her in her field, because it's very important actually that they're not tied up. They need to be moving around, because then I can much more assess them. And every time I went to her, she was walking away. This went on for about like 40 minutes. But then I realised why, and I started to feel, because I as I've got better at this, I often feel it in my own body, what they're feeling as well. And I could feel it around my heart. She was very shut down around her heart because she was very much missing her previous owners. She was still adjusting to the new yard, and she just wouldn't open up. So that was her reason for not opening up. So it's very individual circumstances. So do you have any questions so far? No. Do you want to see a video?
Yeah.
Yeah? I think before we do that, let's see if we can feel some energy in our hands. Now, if we were outside, I'd show you how to see the energy, but I'll tell you how to see it, right? So when you go out in the light, what I want you to do, just look up into the sky. Don't look directly at the sun, just look up into the sky, let your eyes relax, and then you'll start seeing photons of light, and they'll be spinning around. All right? Now, everybody I've shown how to do this have seen it, all right? So if you do it, you'll see it, all right? Give yourself maybe 20 to 30 seconds just to let your eyes go out of focus, and then you'll start seeing them spinning. All right, it's amazing. Right, so with what I'd like you to do, just put your one palm up, one palm down, and then what we're going to imagine we're doing is that we're doing a bellows, and we'll come up to the straight, and we're just starting. So see how I'm doing it? So keep your fingers quite straight, but keep them relaxed at the same time. Now how you're doing that, you sort of just put a bit more energy into it. That's it, that's lovely. Straighten up your fingers a bit. That's it. You've got yours, right, turn one hand up. So one palm up, that's it. That's wonderful, yeah, that's lovely. Let me know if anyone starts feeling anything.
It's heavy.
Heavy,
It's
right,
tingling.
okay. Now yours tingling, that's fantastic. Right, turn them around and do it the same, but the opposite way. Yeah.
That's a tricky bit.
That's it, yeah. And then what I want you to do is put your palms facing each other, and then imagine that there's sort of a ball that you're bringing in and bringing out and bringing closer. Just keeping your hands relaxed, and then just let me know what you feel is happening with your palms. and then you can imagine that there's a ball of energy between your hands. So are you feeling tingling still?
Yeah.
Are you feeling
Yeah.
tingling?
And
Excellent.
heavy. Still feels heavy.
Heavy, yeah. It's sort of heaviness, isn't it? Sometimes it feels almost like you've got gloves on, or it's almost like a numb
I
sort
was
of
going to say
feeling.
like numb pins and needles, like
Yeah,
you
mine
just
have
had
got
pins in
pins and
you.
needles.
Yeah.
My tingling's also in the back of my head.
Wonderful,
That's a
wonderful.
good or a bad thing.
Excellent. So yeah, you're just feeling the energy moving now. Are you feeling anything? What are you feeling? Warmth. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. What are you feeling? Are you feeling anything?
Yeah, all of these, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. There you go. So, do you want to try with partners?
Except the headache.
Yeah.
I
can
can
feel
feel
the
tingles here.
tingle in my head.
It's the same pins and needles feeling, but it's right there at the back of my skull.
So try with a partner. Just you can either hold your hands up like so and do like this, yeah, and just see if you can feel. Right, and
My
you
fingers
hold
feel
yours.
fuzzy. Yeah,
And then
too.
same way. You can move them around like so, or you can bring them like bellows. Hot.
Right.
You hold me.
My hands have gone numb.
I was going to say that it is that numb. It is that pins and needles.
What are you feeling? Are you feeling anything?
What's going on?
I'm feeling tingling. And like sort of heaviness in my palms. Do you want to go tonight?
When I took thought,
Yeah.
it was
You actually moved
Right,
it.
all of these really
When you
jump.
were doing like this,
Yeah.
you move it from there.
On the moving energy, yeah.
Mm.
You can feel it moving around.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh yeah, that's great. We've got a good connection, haven't we?
Got big hands.
Whoa.
Here's how it
Second
happened.
version, right?
Yes, that is amazing.
We got it.
Think
Got it now.
about similar sort of frequency.
It's warm.
I don't often feel that, you see. Wow. That's wonderful.
Use that one.
Yeah, wonderful.
Like fat fingers, like
Yeah.
like you know, like puffy. Yes.
When you sleep on them. And
Yeah,
you go
it
numb
is.
and
It's
you're
like
Yeah.
that when you just when you've got pins and needles just after it's you're like, oh, it's that fat feeling and.
Yes, yes. So you can show your children or anyone else that. Get them to feel the horse's energy fields as well, and you can also feel your horse's energy fields.
Well, how would you do that on your horse? Would you do the same?
Yeah,
Okay,
what I
with
would
those
say, before you start, do this, so to get the
To
energy
yourself.
through your hands, and then just go to your horse, and it doesn't, there's no set distance away, but just probably about that far, whatever you're comfortable with, and just start running your hands just above the body and seeing what differences you feel, and what I know you will feel differences in areas. So when your hand starts tingling or starts going warm or starts feeling fat, you'll know that's a problem area. So there's no particular technique. You can literally hold your hands over there, because what will be happening is the horse's energy will be coming up through the cells twin train with yours. So all you have to do is just hold them there. I tend to move them about a little bit, like so, just like, and then just move around. And they particularly love their legs being done. I don't know whether it's almost like earthing them to the ground. Particularly around the head. What I've found is a lot of the horses and all animals have headaches. And you imagine with the horse, you know, the bit, the bridle. Obviously they're sensitive souls as well, aren't they? So they take on our emotion as well, and plus the horse's emotion and the environment and everything. So they feel, you know, quite a lot of stress. So see what you can find around their heads. They often carry it in their tails as well, and I find that often seems to be trauma from the past as well. They hold it in their root, you know. So some horses you'll see they've got their tails tucked tightly in. That's often when they've had bad experiences. Yeah, so just see how you go with that. and then you're pretty much healing your horse, and you can. It's amazing. It's amazing. Even if you do it for 5 to 10 minutes, it's helping them. And have a look, see what happens with the horse. You know, whether they do start yawning, whether they start, you know, any of those things. You can take those sheets away with you.
I had a similar thing with a pony I used to have. The lady did it, and she used to call it healing hands, and
Yes.
that was a similar thing. And she said, watch the pony. She said it would drink loads. And she went back to the field, and I've never seen a horse drink so much. Why was that? Because of
It's because it can make them quite thirsty,
Yeah.
and also the cells need, when the energy starts moving, it's almost like dehydrating the
Yeah.
cells.
I've
And
never
it's-
seen a horse drink so much at one time.
Yes, yes, they'll often stop to drink
Yeah.
when I'm doing this. They can obviously feel quite tired as well. It's a bit like, you know, if you go for a massage or any sort of therapy like that, you can
You
feel.
also said about drinking afterwards, didn't you?
Yeah, it's very important that you drink and hydrate yourself, and of course it's the same for the horse, and you should really rest. And I would say never really do it too long with your horse if you're going to ride them as well, because it's too much for them. My friend who does healing with horses, she went to see a pony. They hadn't told her that the next day it was going to a competition, and they took it. It wouldn't jump, it wouldn't do anything. It was worn out. Didn't it?
Do Friday night, so they're ready for the jump on Saturday.
Really dopey. Okay, I might try that.
Is your horse
I
quite
don't know
hyper?
yet. We don't know. This is the
She's
second
going to be
time.
as good as gold. They're both going to be as good as gold.
I've only had them 6 months, but I got them September time.
Yes.
So this is our second time at the club. Yeah, we've had lessons regularly throughout the winter, but this is our first time at the
In public.
in public, and first time out of since October. So I don't know what they're going to be like.
Yeah.
There's not going to be many people.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not
Good
doing it. I'm
idea.
watching.
Right. Right.
But it's my little one. Yeah, she's very nervous about it.
Check on the leader in if you have to.
Is
Yeah,
she?
I do.
Now, right. I'm going
And I
to
think
show.
that probably affects him, doesn't it? 'Cause he
Yes.
will know.
Yes.
Because he's only on loan. He's what 15 now. So he's a bit of an old chap. He's cheeky. But I'll probably say that she's probably got more problems
Yeah.
mentally than what he has though. So got a right mixture.
Right. Well, I teach heart focused breathing, and it's very, very good, and the kids can do it really, really easily. And I was talking about the adrenaline and the cortisol that you have, especially if you're nervous or if you're excited or anxious or anything, stressed in any way. Got all that adrenaline and cortisol going
Yeah.
around. This breathing, what you do is, you can, when I'm teaching it, I say to people, put your hand on your heart centre, which is here, okay? And then you imagine that you're breathing from this space here, so, and you breathe in a regular fashion, so you just get that breathing. Do you want to try it? So, put your hand in the centre of your chest, wherever you feel comfortable, and then just start breathing from that area, and breathe regularly. So maybe you want to breathe in for 5 and breathe out for 5. So get a regular breath, and then what I want you to do is start feeling a positive emotion. So that could be love, so either love for your horse or your children, compassion or care or gratitude. You might want to do it closing your eyes. If you find your mind wandering off to what shopping you need to get or something like that, just bring your focus back to your heart space again, and just feel the love, feel the compassion for something that you love or care about. And do that for about a minute. I'm going to stop talking while we do this. happens is atrial peptide is released from your heart, which is a good hormone, and it stops cortisol and adrenaline from being produced. So it breaks that stress cycle, and also allows immunoglobulin A to be produced, because as we know, stress causes disease. And the reason why it causes disease is because all the stress hormones block the immunoglobulin A. It's very, very good for before you ride in your horse, and it's very easy for the kids to do. Let me just get
I'll go get I could hear her out there, could you?
Does anyone want to try that, being hooked up to a heart monitor, to see if you actually get into heart coherence? Because what happens is, when you do this and you're doing it right, your heart and brain start communicating with each other in a synchronised way, as opposed to a chaotic way. And let me just show you on a chart what that looks like. So the red line is when you're stressed, say like with frustration, you can see.
You need to do it Saturday morning as well. Before you walk up like this. There's only them two there, yeah, there's only them two there. You might come up,
We'll just have a little circle.
Yeah.
I'll bring
That's
and we'll
it.
just do
Does
it.
anybody have people at different times?
It's very before you fit in and then just you two. So don't worry.
Me and
Only
Donna
be
will-
me and Claire
so me and
watching.
Donna will take the horses, and you have.
Can you bring me some of that?
Yeah, we'll have a bottle ready when you're done.
So you can see, and the Heart Maths is an institute of scientists and doctors that have been researching the heart for about 40 years, and they found it's so much more than just a beating organ. It's the biggest organ that produces the electromagnetic energy, and they've found this breathing like this and putting that positive emotion helps with all these different hormones. And they've actually been using it with like traumatised Syrian children that have been they're so traumatised, some of them are doubly incontinent, and it's been really helping. They also teach it to the police in America. So when they've been into a high intensity shootout or whatever, they come back to their car, they put their finger on the monitor, they do this breathing, and then they wait until their heart and brain are in a coherent fashion, and so it just gets their whole body synchronised again chemically. So it's really, really good. Now the really good thing is, the heart math scientists did an experiment with this and horses, and they found, so they hooked up, they had 7 people who'd not seen these horses before. They hooked up the horses to the heart monitors. They hooked up the people to the heart monitors. They told the people to do the heart focused breathing away from the horses, and they found that their hertz was about 0.1 hertz. That was the frequency that the hearts were at. And then they asked them to go and do it near the horses, so feeling love for the horses. And what they found was the horse's heart energy influenced the human's heart energy and took it down even further to about 0.001 hertz. And this is why they think horses are so good in therapy now, because their energy that they produce is just so helpful to us humans. We're actually starting to be able to record it scientifically now, so it's fantastic.
Is this why horses are sometimes used for like children with disabilities? and
Yes,
stuff?
yes. And I believe it's you know why the chickens are so helpful in the care homes. Did you know that sometimes chickens go into care homes and they sit on the older people's laps, and they just stroke them? And I think it's the frequency of the chicken, and it's the stroking, you know. But that heart focused breathing is a great one to show your children. They're starting to teach it in some schools now, and I think if you, I
But
would
it can
really,
work the other way around as well. If you have a horse that's really, really stressed,
yes,
it can really affect you.
yes,
And
it
it is
is.
sometimes really difficult to say, no, I'm not stressed, it's a balloon, I know it's a balloon. So don't be an idiot.
Yeah, indeed. Our thoughts are frequency. They are. Believe it or not, your thoughts are a frequency. So your horse, whatever you're thinking, your horses will pick up on it. All right. Now I did a day of training for communicating, and also we did some energy healing as well, but it was more about communicating heart to heart, and it was 2 riders with 2 horses, and one of the girls, her horse always used to spook quite a lot when she was out hacking, but she learned how to just communicate heart to heart with her horse, so she always does it before she gets on, and then when she's out riding, she's very aware of her energy and sending calm energy all down her body and into the saddle, and she talks to her horse through her heart, and since she's been doing this, that horse is not spooked. And you know, people who have a hot seat, they're carrying a lot of stress, and they're walk quite wide themselves, and they're just transmitting it down to the horse.
No, I mean it's the other way around.
Yes,
So
but what when you say the stress, I mean, what you could do.
So you
the
picture
horses-
yourself. You're riding, you're having a fantastic time, the sun's shining, you're feeling relaxed and everything is going just great.
Yes.
And then
yes.
there is this balloon in the hedge, and you think, oh well, wait, it's another balloon, and you're still in the sunshine,
Yes.
and suddenly your horse says,
But the fact that you've
It's a
seen
balloon.
the balloon.
the horse
is
seen a
that-
balloon. No, you
did
haven't
see it
even
first
seen.
though, or did the horse see
The
it?
horse have seen, but you haven't sort of not even registered that it really was a balloon. And then your horse goes like, it's a balloon, and then you can just feel it coming up. And
So
you
what
think,
do you do then?
Then I go like, no, it's just come on,
Yes.
the sun's shining, it's really nice. And then I really, 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 really need to work really hard not to let his stress and his heartbeat take over
Yes,
my
yes.
heartbeat.
Yes.
Because he wants to say, tell to me like, there's a balloon, we need to go. Come on,
Yes.
you match my heart, your
Yes.
heartbeat with mine, because we gotta run for it. And I just said, no, we're not.
Yeah.
Just go on. And that's a battle of strength.
Yes, it is. It is.
So
But
we-
of course, we're riding prey animals, aren't we? You know, fight or flight, or freeze. At the end of the day, we can only do what we can do. We can try and transmit that calm energy down, and it is really quite effective. I was riding, you know, it's all right me saying all this, but I was riding a horse called Ghost. There was quite a few of us out on a hack, and then this big lorry comes along, rattling away, and Ghost was fine, the horse in front was fine, but by the time this lorry was, you know, coming behind the others, you know, they decided to freak. And we had one end up in the ditch, and of course, as this is all happening, Ghost lunges forward. So as soon as he's done that, I just think calm energy right down my body, through my pelvis core, right down into the saddle, and he stopped dead. And his owner turned around and said, get off him, because normally when he freaks. And he just stood there, and there was this cacophony of noise and carnage happening around me. Horses in the fields galloping, and he just stood there. I'm not saying it works every time, and I'm not saying, but if we're aware of our energetic connection, and of course, you know, if the horse suddenly shoots forward, immediately our body
It's gonna
will
go.
it will release. But we have, you know, if you can quickly just calm it down, it's good.
I think it's with your voice
Yeah.
and that as well. Like mine, they don't freak or anything like that. It's more if you go around a corner, there'll be someone standing like with a dog. They'll go,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it's alright, carry
Yes.
on, let's go. But if you'll carry on being relaxed, they're okay. But they literally
Yes.
just freak anything that they're just not expecting.
Yes.
You know, a trailer or anything can come past us and they're fine. They literally a couple of times we've just gone around the track and there might be a dog walker and they literally spot it
Wasn't
before
there
we
last
do,
time?
don't we? Yeah.
Yes.
And they spot it first or they sense it before we do.
Yes.
They will literally jump up in the air and then you instantly just go,
Yeah.
don't even grab it,
You do, but
You
if
have
you
to
can relax,
it,
yes,
and talk to them, it's voice.
yes,
I find in a calming way, and as long as they know that you're not scared.
And if you're
That's it.
talking, that helps you.
Yeah.
Sort of
Yes.
singing and-
But if you come across a cow towel, then no have it.
Or a pig, or a pig.
Just hang on. Hang on for dear life.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
Meet me at the other end.
get off and walk. But yeah, no, I find with mine it's more your voice that
Yeah.
if you're calm, then you can calm them down. Like the
Yeah.
other night, Hailstones, it was shattering down on the stables and it was so noisy that they were freaking out, and I just stood there just talking to him but really gently,
Yeah.
and in the end they did calm down.
Yeah.
They were okay.
Yeah, excellent. 'Cause it's the harmonics of
Yeah.
the voice as well, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And just gently, like she'd come to the door, hyped, and I just like gently rub my hand down her, and then she'd go off again and come back, and I was there for like half. I was soaked.
Yeah.
Because they shouted, I was soaked. But it was literally just talking to them, and then eventually they calmed down and could eat their hay nicely,
Yeah.
and then they did calm.
Yeah. I find if you might want to try just doing like the energy therapy around and particularly around their head, that can be very, very calming for them. Usually when I'm doing the therapy, they'll often fall asleep.
When you're doing that with your hands over them, do you find them tense because they think they're going to get hit or something?
No, but I'm glad you said that, because some horses, so I went to see a horse about 4 weeks ago. My hands were just, I rate the feeling I get in my hands from 0 to 10, and then I have if I can just show you. So say for instance, so when I went to see Dougie on this occasion, what I felt around his eyes and his poll, I put it at about a 6. This is just my way of recording it. So if it's really vibrating and it feels like I'm being electrocuted, that would be a 9. Now when I went to see this horse, I mean, I literally was 4 feet away, and what I was feeling in my hands was just on a 9, possibly 10. It was the most I've ever felt. And I could not get any closer, and that was too much for the horse because it was zinging. Obviously, everything was moving up through that horse as soon as I put my hands there, so I had to be really, really careful. And I had to do it just really, really gently, and I almost had to mentally lower my frequency because it was just too much for the horse. What was your question again?
If you go near them,
They're head shy.
are they head shy or do they tense?
Yeah.
Because even with a brush, sometimes I go near her and she will automatically tense straight away until, especially around her back end and everything, she just tense. She's fine. She'll never hurt me.
No.
I'm safe with her, but she would just hurt. You can feel her whole body just tense.
Yeah. I'll be very interesting to see. What I generally do with a new horse, I will start off at their shoulders. I won't go straight to the head. But I will try this with your horse because it sounds like, I bet she's holding quite a lot of tension in some areas.
She's I don't know. I know a little bit about her background, but not a massive amount. I know that she had a baby when she was 2, and she's gone through a lot. She's been homed and homed and homed. She's only 11. She had 5 different names.
Has she?
Yeah, and she's beautiful. She's such a kind, but she's been through a lot. But she's got the loveliest, kindest nature. But you just know that when you go with a brush with her, she will tense the minute you get there, and then eventually she will relax. But even her back legs, I could do anything with her, but you could just tell that she's scared because she doesn't know what she's going to get.
Sure.
And because I've only had her 6 months, that she's still getting used to me.
Yeah. With her, she was going to so benefit from this with you. And I would say start at the shoulder, see how she is. If you can see she's getting uncomfortable with it, because she will feel tingling, just back off a bit.
Yeah, no, she's funny because she does just get tense. She just tenses.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when we're brushing her, and after a while, we'll go to her head, and then because she's relaxed, she'll put her head down.
Yes.
You can just literally brush her forelock, and she's happy. She's in a happy place.
Yes.
But it's just she just stresses out, but not where she's going to hurt you.
Yes.
She wouldn't do that.
She's worried you're going to hurt her.
Yeah.
Bless
Yeah.
her. Bless her
Yeah.
heart.
I think the horses also have a bit control over their energy field, because you can put, we call it his force field. He can put
Oh.
that up, and he can take it down, and he can make it bigger,
Yes.
he can make it smaller,
Yeah.
and it works on people, and it works on skeptic people, sort of
Yeah.
unconsciously it works on people, and it works definitely on other
Horses.
horses.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of horses can actually work
yes.
with their force field.
That's really good point actually, because that shows like with Nemo, once I'd spoke to him, he opened up, didn't he? He opened up his energy fields, whereas when I first felt it, I could hardly feel anything, so he was really, really shut down. So yeah, they can, can't they? It's really good.
And they know how to use it for their own
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah.
Protection or
Or
Yeah.
just a grumpy old kid.
Thomas is now allowed in the force field.
Inside the force field.
Yeah.
But it is, for me, it's very useful to have the force field, because if I have a horse that is, one of these irritating horses that always step up your foot or always come into your space,
Yeah.
these no manners. But if I lead that horse with the colonel, and I just step in colonel's force field, I've never had any problem with the other horse, because they respect his force field. They don't respect mine because I'm just a human. But so it has, he can,
Yeah,
so they
wonderful.
can work with that.
Yeah.
There's more to it than just showing the pain.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
can communicate
Absolutely.
with it.
Oh. Yeah, there's so much we don't really know, and I mean, I'm learning with every horse that I see. It's quite amazing. They're all so individual of how they respond as well. I mean, obviously you've got the ways that they kind of relax, but they're all very different in how quickly they do that, what they do. It's like a lot of horses they just like to bring their muzzles to my hand. It's almost like they're pulling the energy out, and it's very interesting how I don't know quite what's happening, but it's almost like all the energy moves through their body, and they're expelling it through their mouth, because sometimes it's so much more than a yawn. Often they'll groan. It's almost like a regurgitation. Yeah. I think what I'll do, I'll show you a video of a horse I saw a couple of days ago, because here's a classic of how he was releasing and how he's moving his head all about, and it's almost like this alien's coming out, it's alien energy. And I don't know whether their tongues tingle, but it's very interesting. Often they'll go to bite before they release. And I don't know why that is. I don't know whether it's because their muzzles are tingling so much they feel they need to be doing something with their mouth, or whether it's all coming through their heads and it's coming out. But it's very, very interesting how they often go to bite before. And now I'm so tuned in. I know when they're about to release, because I can see it all coming out through their face. It's quite cool. So I'll show you this. And of course, this, just going back to the energetic connection that we have, this is why I love this saddle so much, the treeless saddle, because then you can feel the horse so much more. Have you tried one of these?
Oh, I've also seen a lot of other people riding with them,
Yes.
and it really depends on the rider if it's a good idea.
It does, doesn't it?
So hence my
Absolutely.
skeptic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the young lass who tried this with her horse, she's a lovely, gentle, quiet rider. She knows her pony, and it worked well. Yeah, you have to. This should get you to be riding better, shouldn't it? Because you've got to do the balance. But yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. But it's great because you look left, the horse feels that slight movement, so you've got much more closer connection with them. I was quite impressed because I thought I would feel very vulnerable, without having like all the padding and that. But I was really amazed at how comfortable it was and how I felt quite safe. So let's get this video over. What's the time, please? In December, do you want to drink? Do you want 5 to 10 minute?
8.
Do you want a 5-minute break?
Wouldn't, that's alright.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, just let's have it done.
See, Thomas can be shy.
I bet he's holding a lot round his pole, isn't
Well,
he?
he's exactly what you said. He's a now 19-year-old, but always been. But he was apparently used to show jumping and then being a kid's pony. So he's probably been pulled around and pushed around and stuff. But I also know like any spray bottles and stuff. But yes, the second, like he's fine brushing. But if you like literally go straight to his head, he'll be like, and then he's like, oh, okay, it's just a brush. You're like Thomas. And he's like, oh yeah, it's just a brush. It's alright.
We're not gonna.
But anything, but other than that, he seems quite relaxed.
See what you
He lives in his own world.